Hey YouTube, it's MTG B Lee here, and this is my first video on my Magic drafting critiques. Basically, my plan is to just do a recap of when I draft 2 times a week, Tuesdays and the Friday Night Magic. Afterwards, I will open up a pack, kind of do a first pick of the pack sort of situation, analyze why I chose that, and then afterwards I'll just repack it and give it out to one of my subscribers at random, kind of as like a reward. So I've been doing pretty well in drafts. Built up I think, a decent way to go about drafting. And when I win the packs, then I had this idea, hey, I'll just give one out. So last night on the Tuesday night draft, I did black-white. Did pretty well on it. The first card of the first pack was a Fumigate. The rest of the pack was kind of poor, so that's the only one that kind of stuck out. Just a Wrath of God. The next set of cards that were passed to me, there was a Restoration Gearsmith. Again, the rest of the pack wasn't too powerful. There were some strong greens like the Rhinos, but I went with the Gearsmith. I generally try to avoid going into a gold cards right away, because that kind of pigeonholes you. It sticks you in that archetype. But that was the best decision, I think, judging by the rest of the cards in there. So along the way, I started getting decent commons and uncommons, which I found out are a staple in black-white. If you can pair up the synergies of commons, you can be pretty powerful early game. As you notice here, my curve is laid out, and this is what I usually do when I'm doing a deck construction. I set it out by mana curve and then color, so that gives me just a general overview to construct my deck. So just by judging at the curve, you see it's a majority of 2 drops and a few 3s, then a decent amount of 4s. You know, I wanted this deck to be generally fast-paced, so that's why it just caps at 5 casting card, and it went pretty well. Chose to do 22-18 on my land ratio. So anyways, what I was talking about earlier was if you're doing black-white, you can take advantage of these commons, 2 drops here, and they work pretty well together, the Eddy Trail Hawk and the Thriving Rats. Each one you pop, you get 2 energy, which you can use for either one. Then another common that you can pair along with those is Die Young, which again gives you energy that you can sink into all 3 of these. Let's see. And I mean, when the board was getting installed, these Eddy Trail Hawks alone would allow me to slowly just ping at them. So that. Of course, let's see. Another card I value pretty highly is the removals, which I got here with 2 impeccable timing. Okay, so if you're doing black-white, you have access to a decent amount of removal, as well as cheap costing powerful creatures, like the 2/3/2 with Vigilance. Became pretty strong. One of my favorite white uncommons is the Fairgrounds Warden. It's just exile on a stick. Yeah. So basically how the game was panning out is I would just stay aggressive early on with the Eddy Trail Hawks and the Thriving Rats, getting my energy levels pretty high using those. By turn 4, I could pop one of the Aetherborn Marauders to just get a decent beefy flyer out. Again, some nice synergy going on. The Restoration Gearsmiths, like I said, work pretty well with Fumigates. After you've wrathed the board, you can just return one of your creatures back there. So I did pop Fumigates a few times when the board was just stalled and I didn't have a flyer out. I would just reset the board, then to bring out a decently sized mid-range creature like a 3/3 to usually swing for the win there. I chose to get a tutor in there to most of the time look for the Fumigate. Sometimes I would just grab a warding if I needed to exile one of theirs so they wouldn't be able to block that turn. Let's see here. And, 3 for a 3/2. Pass the vanilla tests, plus the additional +1/+1, which, that's a big thing. I found myself +1ing my rats, which, went against their 1/2 or 2/1, and just allowed me to get it bigger when I activated the energy. A card that I really liked first time playing was the Embrawled Bruiser. 2 for 3/1, comes into play tapped. As long as you control an artifact, it has Menace. So that works out, say, when you get a Malphus squad, put a 1/1 servo. You're looking at 2 Menace creatures there. But, all in all, it's if you're drafting this archetype, you just want to go for the early drop synergistic creatures, which you can see right here at the front. I mean, turn 2, get in, just start building up until, turn 4, you could have a 4-cost 4/4 flyer if you just kind of cannibalize the counters off of those. And again, definitely get the Die Youngs as a source of removal along with the impeccable timings here. Okay, so there's that. As my first video, I wanted to make it somewhat short. So, okay, now let's do what I was talking about. So won a few packs last night. So open one up. We'll do a first pack, first pick sourcing. So let's say I was drafting this. What would I do? I would take out these. Okay. Let's see what the rare was here. A Fleetwheel Cruiser. That's not bad. When you're looking at the vehicles, I rate them basically their power and their crew. Crew 2, that's relatively easy to crew. You crew 2 for a 5/3, as opposed to a crew 5 for like a 6 power uncommon vehicle. You're not really getting your bang for the buck there. So that is a possibility. Nope. Live Fast. That is a decent card. Decent. Nope. Very good burn card. The cogs, they are definitely not first pick things. Not an instant. This card is decent, but you don't want to go gold as your first pack unless the other cards are just very bad. Even then, that's tough. Decent card drawer there. And a Creeping Mold. 2 for 2/2. Another decent card. Okay. So let me go through the cards that I can just remove off the bat. Gold. I don't want that. Sideboard card. Okay. So this is what we're looking at here. And I generally order it by color. Let's do this. Give us a shot. Honestly, given all these, I would either look at the red removal or the Fleetwood Cruiser. This is not a good. This is a decent card, but not as your first green pick. That is not a choice to say, hey, I'm going green. These are great black cards if you already go in black. You got card advantage, more than a grizzly bear here. 1/0 on death touch. But again, that's not your first black card. Welding Sparks, I could argue that is a first pick for red. That's decent removal. If you don't have any other decent cards, which I did not get there. The Quicksmith Genius, 3/4/3/2. Whenever artifact enters the battlefield under your control, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. That is a very good ability. But the Fleetwood Cruiser, if I pick that, it is colorless, of course, so that would leave all my other colors open. It is, all around decent. 4/5/3, trample, haste. When Fleetwood Cruiser enters the battlefield, it becomes an artifact creature until end of turn. So, wild vehicles, they aren't creatures until you crew them. This becomes a creature, allowing you to potentially swing for 5 first turn. And on top of that, the crew is pretty low. So this would be my pick here. Okay. I would, I'd be pleased if this was an actual draft cat in this. Leaves all my options open for colors. Okay. So what I will do, we'll package this in a plastic sleeve, in a protective case, and give it out to one of my subscribers. So at this moment, since I'm just starting out, the first subscriber will get this pack here. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll continue to do this with my drafts going forward. Hopefully you like my analysis and everything. Okay, well, take care, and see you later.